Hey, what's going on, people? This is Movado 242, also known as AKA Brother John, and I just wanted to bring something to your attention here. A few things. We have a 12-foot golden statue of President Donald Trump outside the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. Supposedly, this statue appears to show him holding cryptocurrency Bitcoin. Yeah, that's kind of funny because Bitcoin doesn't really have something you can hold. They've kind of drawn Bitcoin before, but yeah, there's really no Bitcoin that you can hold in your hand. So the statue arrived as the Federal Reserve announced a quarter point interest rate cut on Wednesday. According to local station WJLA, the temporary piece on 3rd Street was funded by a collective of cryptocurrency investors. Wow. So I'll put up a picture of this thing, but yeah, it makes him look a little goofy. Just a statue, almost looks like a caricature. It doesn't really look, like a statue you might see of a former president like George Washington or somebody like that. So, but anyway, this administration has been rather positive to cryptocurrency, unlike the last one, the last few, really. But yeah, we shall see. Next up, we see that the Senate passes a resolution for National Day of Remembrance for Charlie Kirk. The big picture, they say the White House and many Republican lawmakers are continuing to rally around Kirk's assassination, both as a way of curtailing free speech and painting political opponents as violent. Now, this is an act that's usually reserved for elected leaders or heads of state. And yeah, I see Pam Bondi is, they're firing people who are saying mean things about the man. Now, so let me get, like I think I mentioned before, nobody deserves to be shot for their opinions and their, what they want to say. That's the basis of free speech in this country. You can say what you want to say, pretty much. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, but outside of that, as I've been told, or as I've always heard, everything else is pretty much, good to go. But now all of a sudden they're coming up with this hate speech laws, or they're talking about coming up with them too, and based on people saying bad things about the young man that was shot. I say shot. They're saying he's assassinated. JFK was assassinated. Martin Luther King was assassinated. Charlie got shot, pretty much. So this is ushering in a new era, though, when the Attorney General of the United States is talking about passing hate speech laws. That's a direct affront to the First Amendment. The First Amendment is not there for speech that you like. It's there for speech that you don't like. So we're sliding down a slippery slope here. We talk bad about Russia and China. The U.S. is no different. As a matter of fact, they may be even worse because they're so. The people have been so lulled into sleep, and I see this left-right thing is it's if you're still talking about the left and the right, you are part of the problem. You're part of the problem because that's nothing but a divisive term, you're on the left, or the leftist, you're right, and at the end of the day, we who fight and argue over whether we're on the left or on the right, we're the pawns. At another level, these guys, they don't care. And it's probably above the political level too. They're pawns on another level, but still pawns nonetheless. And the fact that the nation is so divided over this incident, it's going to be hard to recover from it, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But I just saw something today where I think some person who works at Staples or one of those types of companies refused to print programs for Kirk's funeral. I guess they were doing something for that. And the Attorney General of the United States got involved in that and is pressing charges. Now that is that's like taking what's a good analogy? Making a mole out, making an anthill, mole out of an anthill or something like that. I don't know. I got mixed up with it, but you get the picture. You're taking this minuscule, what would be not even take it somewhere else to get it printed. But they're going to charge this guy. Well, I'm not sure what they ended up charging him or going to end up charging him with. Because most businesses have a sign that says we reserve the right to refuse service for whatever reason. And, I've seen people get turned around because they didn't have a shirt on at a store or not dressed appropriately. But it seems like they deemed it necessary to get involved in this. And I just don't think it's a good idea. Not for a country that's supposedly the land of the free and home of the brave. When you start getting down to this type of action, you are approaching dictatorship or authoritarianism. And I would not be surprised if, I think Rahm Emanuel would always say, never let a good crisis go to waste. So they're going to use this to apply whatever kind of restrictions they want to. But don't forget, they may not be in power. The Republicans may not be in power on the next election. And then what happens? So it just gets flipped around, and they keep changing sides and doing the same old thing. Nothing good for the people. Giving out money to these wars, these foreign wars, and Ukraine, Israel. Billions of dollars that we spend on wars. We've spent trillions. Look at all the stuff we did over in Afghanistan and Iraq and Beirut, just trillions of dollars spent, and what do we have to show for it? Nothing. And they're constantly ragging on China. China spent a lot of money too, but they spent that money on their infrastructure. They've got high-speed rails. It's just I can't even. I don't even have words for it. We could be doing a whole lot better than what we're doing if we use that money for better purposes. And like I said, we're 37 trillion, and it's probably more than 37 trillion now in debt. And I think what was it today? The Fed lowered the interest rates, and that's not a good sign. When you're lowering interest rates, that's not the sign of a good economy. And another thing, people get confused, or they like to make us think that the stock market is not the economy. A lot of Americans aren't in the stock market. So the stock market is not the economy, but they like to throw that number around. Oh, the stock market hit an all-time high, and you're supposed to feel good about that. Well, if you're not in the stock market, that doesn't mean anything to you. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this. The Day of Remembrance is supposed to happen on October the 14th. Um, and it says this is just a simple resolution, which means for now it's not enshrined in law and does not equal a full Senate vote, does not require a full Senate vote. But I can see them making it that. I can see them making it that. And so we'll keep an eye on that and see what happens. And in other news, Jimmy Kimmel was fired for lack of talent, says Trump. You can call that free speech or not. So, yeah, in case you haven't heard, Jimmy Kimmel was relieved of duties on his nighttime TV talk show. I didn't really care for the man, never really watched his show, wasn't interested in that. But when you get, let's see what they say. The president previously celebrated Kimmel's indefinite hiatus on Truth Social, praising ABC for pulling the show after its host referenced Charlie Kirk. Wow. You see, I don't agree with this. I mean, was it a nice thing to say? Does that make you a great human being to say something bad about a person who died? No, of course not. But this is not good. This is setting a precedent. So what are they gonna do? Um, you know, if someone on the other side gets shot and killed, are they gonna keep the same energy for that person as well? We see they didn't do that for the politicians that were killed up in Minneapolis few months back. I mean, I think Kimmel had been pretty critical of Trump, and we know how vindictive he is. Trump he just reminds me of a big petty person, really, a big petty person with a lot of money, and you know, like I said, I'm no fan of Jimmy Kimmel. The stuff they did during the during that episode back when we had that thing going on where everybody had to stay home. Um, you know, that was not good. But this is not good either. This is not good in the land in the supposed land of the free and home of the brave. The network announced its decision indefinitely to pause the show after Kimmel referenced the recent assassination of, and there they go calling it an assassination. No, it wasn't an assassination. He got shot during his monologue, which he questioned the president's reaction to the news. See, this is just, yeah, this is petty. This is not how a head of state should be conducting himself, if you ask me. So, but hey, he who has the power, I guess they can do what they want to do. But we're definitely seeing a double standard here, and it happens on both sides. And like I said, Republicans won't be in power forever unless we really go into a dictatorship and we don't have another election, which Trump has often said this is this is the last presidency. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. And as if that wasn't enough, former ESPN host Keith Olbermann was ripped on social media following his reaction to Jimmy Kimmel's show being pulled from the airwaves and involving Charlie Kirk shooting. Olbermann responded to Sinclair's statement, which said Kimmel's suspension from his ABC late night show was not enough. Sinclair called for ABC to air a remembrance for Kirk in lieu of Kimmel's show after the conservative influence was shot and killed last week. Wow, they are really going overboard on this thing. I just gotta say, this is way too much. But you know, that's how they want to roll. So just remember, the shoe's not always on that foot, and if it flips on the other side, hey, you know, this, like I said, you can. People are mean, you know. But do you lose your job because you're mean? Do you get fired because you're mean? Do you get sanctioned because you're mean? In most cases, no. But not in America. America is no longer the land of the free, I would say. Not the way they're acting right now. So, we shall see, said the blind man. And for a man who espoused free speech, I imagine he's rolling in his grave now, because there's definitely no free speech going on now, as it seems that the Attorney General has other plans for that. So let's see what is she talking about.
So Charlie Kirk strongly defended and modeled the principles of free speech.
Way of life means you speak your mind without retribution, without being kicked off social media by a self-righteous censor in Silicon Valley.
Free speech is our birthright as Americans. When you have free speech, we're going to get closer to the truth, closer to the best way to govern, closer to the best polity for the country.
You should be allowed to say outrageous things. You should be allowed to say contrarian things.
Now, teachers and professors, even pilots, are among those who have been fired or suspended after making inappropriate comments about Kirk's murder online. Moments ago, Attorney General Bondi warning, quote, hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment. It's a crime. And for far too long, we've watched the radical left normalize threats, call for assassinations, and cheer political violence. That era is over. Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley argues Charlie Kirk wouldn't fire people who hated him, he'd win them over, and he joins us now. Professor, I know you're free speech peers. I am in many respects. But it looks like some of these professors are crossing the line and celebrating, glorifying murder.
Well, Lawrence, there is no question how grotesque these statements are, and that is what Charlie did, is he held a mirror to the face of higher education to show the hypocrisy, hate, the intolerance that has taken over our campuses. That's why they hated him. That's why, in all likelihood, he died, because he was such a figure of clarification, to expose all of this. It would be a disservice to his life and legacy to use this murder to attack the very thing he fought for most, which is free speech. I knew Charlie. I liked him a great deal. And I respected the fact that he was someone who opposed all cancel campaigns, left and right. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot take measures against individuals who do cross the line. There's a teacher who played this video of the assassination and raved about Kirk in a classroom in Canada. Of course that person should be fired. There's a Secret Service agent who glorified or condoned this killing. That's really incompatible with that position. When you have people who are using their positions, their official titles, if they're doing this during work hours, they can be punished. They can be terminated. But at the same time, we have to honor Charlie's legacy by saying that he wanted debate. He didn't want to silence people. He wanted them to speak. He wanted them to speak to him.
Yeah, now I agree with that. If you are doing something on your work phone or your work computer and say something out of line, yeah, they probably have the right to take action against you. But outside of that, when you're off duty, you're free to speak how you want to. And I mean, Kirk, give for better or worse, he agreed with that. He didn't believe in shutting people down or canceling them. He did want to talk. So I agree with that point, that if we have a difference of opinion, just because we do have that difference doesn't mean you have the right to shut me down or take punitive action against me. But it seems that's the way the Attorney General is going.
And we do that by protecting free speech.
Let's talk about that debate, because Bill Maher puts it this way about one side is open to having a debate, but the other side isn't. Let's play it.
They're the people who don't want to talk. It's my main issue with them. And Charlie Kirk was a guy who, he was always talking. And I talked to him here. You know, the right-wingers say what you want about them, but they talk to you. They're not into this leftist think. The left really has much more of I don't talk to you, I don't want to deal with you, you're deplorable, I can't break bread with you. Yeah. That attitude, and all the right-wingers, they don't have that attitude.
So do you agree with that, Jonathan?
I do, wholeheartedly. I think that was right on the money. I just returned from Europe, where I was speaking on free speech. And free speech isn't a free fall in Europe. And they did precisely what some people are arguing today. They used hateful rhetoric, inflammatory rhetoric, to silence everyone, to expand censorship. And it has taken them down to the road, which is truly horrific. But the left has become a culture of speech phobics. They find it intolerable. The thing that drove them crazy about Charlie is he kept on saying, debate me. For people who are intolerant, that is the most infuriating invitation you can give them. They don't want to hear from you. They want to silence you. And these people spend more time silencing other people than they do speaking for themselves.
So it seems like the very thing that Charlie Kirk espoused, the Attorney General is about to legislate to make it illegal. Hate speech, that is. So they're going to call something hate speech. I'm not sure how they're going to determine what is hate speech and what is regular speech. So we'll see how that works out. The Constitution does not have a category for hate speech. It's all free speech. And the First Amendment was created for the speech that you don't like. Very ironic that the very thing Charlie Kirk espoused, the government is about to come up with new legislation to ban. And when it comes to speech, the First Amendment doesn't have a category for hate speech. It's all speech. And it's all protected under that First Amendment. So we are moving towards a very slippery slope when it comes to our First Amendment. And it's going to be, it's kind of ironic that it's coming at the heels of something that happened to a man who virtually espoused the right to speak your mind. And once you can't speak your mind, you're not free. So in case you didn't know, President Trump is over in England right now, and he received a warm English welcome in the form of Epstein and Trump images projected onto the walls of Windsor Castle upon his arrival. So let's take a look at that.
President Trump arriving in the United Kingdom on Air Force One, and he had a brief welcome on the tarmac before heading on to Marine One and going to the US ambassador's residence in London, where he'll stay overnight. So a huge image of President Trump with Jeffrey Epstein appeared via projector on Windsor Castle earlier. The projector was up there, coming out of a hotel room opposite. We saw another big image of President Trump being unfurled earlier in Windsor from a group called Everyone Hates Elon. President Trump not popular according to the polls here in the United Kingdom, but the British government wants to reaffirm the relationship, the strategic relationship between the UK and the US. So they want him to be protected from any sorts of embarrassment. He won't be seeing any of this if everything goes as planned.
So that's what President Trump was greeted with when he arrived. Well, I guess they said they were going to try to keep him from seeing it, but yeah, that would have been pretty cool. Some pretty ingenious, inventive guys to come up with that idea. So, but anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, let's just sit back and take notice of what's happening. You know, right now it's all about the left and the right, and right now the right is in charge. But as we all know, the pendulum of power swings every 4, 6, 8 years, whatever you what time span you want to give it. So what's happening to the left right now, as everyone's cheering, watch out, because that shoe is going to be on the other foot. And once they get rid of the right, they'll take out the left, and then they will have achieved their goal. So just remember, divide and conquer is a hell of a drug. Peace.